Hello, and welcome back to your Pirate Players Then and Now podcast. I am your Hampton football enthusiast, TJ Jones, and we are here to talk about the December activities. Been a whole lot of December activity. Happy holidays to everyone. And no better person to talk to about it than our friend and analyst, Adam Lee Spencer. How you doing this evening, Adam?
Hey man, hope all is well. Happy holidays to you. Happy holidays to Pirate Nation. Good everything, and go Pirates.
All right, that's what I'm talking about. Well, December has been a busy month for Pirate Nation, as you might say. We have several activities that went on of significance. And so we wanted to take a little bit of time and get our Hampton football family caught up. It began with the biggest announcement, which was the hiring of K-State assistant head football coach and defensive backs coach Van Malone. Van Malone comes to the school with a wealth of Power 5 knowledge and Power 5 experience, including having been a player, having played in the pros, and he gave a really good overview of what he was. And I can say I was pleased and impressed with the way he articulated what he was looking for and what he was going to bring to the football program.
So let me start off with this quote from President Williams. Championships are won by organizations.
Hmm.
I watched that press conference, and for all the uncertainty that some of us may have felt, as quiet as the search and the process seemed to be, when you watch that press conference, you got the idea that there was an organized idea of what was wanted, what we should target, and what we shouldn't target. Because we heard all the names that were out there. If A.D. Henderson talked about it in the State of the Athletic Department interview he did, that dropped right before Christmas. And he said it. This is the ninth hire now. And by my count, 9 hires, only 2 of them didn't have power conference experience commensurate to the sport. So it just feels like Coach Malone, or somebody of Coach Malone's coaching background and coaching pedigree, coaching resume, was always going to be the guy for us. We talked about this. He feels like the adult in the room,
I love it when you say
which
that.
I think this appeases 5/6 of the Hampton fan base. We know there's a section that just wanted the gold jacket. He's not that guy, but there is an NFL background.
I was impressed with several different components. His opportunity to be a coordinator in the past at the SMU and so forth. His leadership with the Minority Coaches Association that he helped to start. His relationships with people like T. Jackson from Prairie View, right? Just like a mentor type style. He is a coach's coach and clearly is respected in the industry amongst his peers. And it's great that seems like the right personality fit, as you were alluding to, in this particular moment. So I'm very excited for all of that. And, as it kind of goes forward, we just look forward to see who he brings in, because he's going to bring in individuals, both players and coaches who are interested in wearing Hampton University proudly upon them, carrying that as a significance. And he seems like a holistic coach as well, right? Seems very interested in, players not just getting their opportunity on the field, but also their opportunity in life. And that is very consistent with what I think the university wanted in a football coach. So his time at K-State seems to have gone well. I think we were opportunistic in the sense that there was a head coaching change there, and that created some uncertainty, some opportunity, and we scooped that opportunity. So He also seems like the type of guy who will be sedentary. I'm hoping, certainly, the kind of guy who, if he enjoys it and he likes what he's doing it for, I'll call bigger reasons, like almost his personal calling as a coach. He may be less likely to want to move on quickly, what some might presume as bigger and better things. I think he actually is the type of person who will want to have a meaningful legacy at Hampton University, whether it be his coaching tree, his players, his record, the whole 9 yards. So I'm excited about all of that.
Well, I think we had a group of stakeholders that were named in the press conference, along with the Renaissance search firm, and we know that there were other jobs in the HBCU landscape. Forget about talking about high end FBS level opportunities that were out there. The one thing that Hampton was offering was stability.
Hmm.
Grown-ups and adults at the administrative level, whether it's the academic side or the football side. And I think he kind of matches where we are right now. And I think his personality, the demeanor, the plan that he seems to have, he's in his own words, he said, we will outwork, outhit, and outsmart our opponents.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Malone also noted in his press conference that President Williams said at least 3 times, we expect to win. I've said this a few times before. I believe the administrative level and the athletic administrative level are dead serious about winning. I don't think there's any questions about that.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Now, that brings me to the next thing that happened more recently, which was potential coaches that will be joining him. At this stage, there's still very much rumor. So, at least for now, we have a couple of names that have come as likely candidates to take the roles of offensive and defensive coordinator. Um, Offensively, it begins with an interesting selection, DJ Bolden, most recently as the wide receivers coach and NFL liaison for South Carolina State, for Celebration Bowl champions South Carolina State. So that's a pretty interesting, initial foray into the coaching ranks, not for him, but for us as a selection, and for Van Malone's first offensive coordinator to be DJ Bolden. What did you think of that?
Interesting hire, a fascinating one. If you watch the Celebration Bowl, he coached number 5 for South Carolina State, Jordan Smith. That's all that needs to be said. I think my biggest interest was always going to be the offensive coordinator hire and what type of physicality that coordinator was going to bring to the offensive end. And on top of all of that, um, what that offensive coordinator could do to create, to scheme up some stuff. And not only that, adapt to whatever the defense, of who we were playing was showing.
Hmm.
I thought over the last couple of years, we've lost some of the physicality and we weren't able to adjust very well sometimes to certain things that certain defenses were presenting to us. So, very interesting hire. There's some proof out there that he can coach. Obviously, like I said, just turn on the Celebration Bowl tape. So there's some proof out there that this guy can coach. Very, very interesting hire.
Well, it is of note that he does have head coaching experience at the D2 level for a couple of years prior to joining South Carolina State. So we should have hopefully some young wide receivers and some potential transferring in wide receivers who want to come and be coached by him because of his experiences both at Wake Forest and in the league and in other locations. Certainly, I think that is a very interesting hire, and what I want to see, quite honestly, is that we can finish. We've been a team that at times struggled to finish. So, you know, I'm excited to see his ability not only to be creative in his play calling, but also to be able to put us in positions where we can finish strong. Right? That would be an ideal scenario, I think, for the offense. Now, on the defensive side,
Absolutely.
The other hire being Clay Jennings, another interesting selection with long-standing experience. He is, I would describe him as a contemporary of Van Malone's. He's a D-backs guy also. And I was jokingly talking to someone the other day saying, okay, it seems like, or it feels like, between Van Malone and Clay Jennings, we are trying to recreate DBU at the HBCU level. We very well, and I'm going to call it here, we very well may in the next few years be the factory for great DB play in the HBCU space, given the types of individuals that we are bringing in, both your DC and your head coach. So it's going to be very interesting to see what that looks like. You heard it here first. But at the same time, I definitely think that Clay Jennings is an interesting selection with lots of experience over a long period of time.
Yeah, I believe Coach Malone, between Coach Malone and Coach Jennings, their voice is going to be very important in the portal on a couple of different facets. You look at Coach Jennings' resume, there's between the time at Arkansas and TCU alone, there's 7 NFL draft picks. I'm not talking about UDFA guys. I'm talking about draft picks. So there seems to be a wealth of knowledge between the head
Absolutely.
coach and what we believe to be the DC that can really, really help us in the portal on both sides of it. You know, whether it's getting guys in school or keeping guys in school, those two voices, I think, will be very, very helpful.
Absolutely. I don't think they had any coaching overlaps between the two of them, Malone and Jennings, but they definitely are very well acquainted with each other. And that makes good sense as to why their philosophies would be aligned for the purposes of this particular moment. So it's good to see. Now, moving forward, we had a couple of things happen as it relates to players that, one specifically and one that's coming. Um, the one that's specific is like we had the early signing period, right? Where we had 7 young men sign in the early signing period. Um, and I gave those young men a lot of credit in a couple of comments that I made on my X account. If you go check it out, if you ever want more expedited information, both myself and Adam regularly are active on X with more information related to Pirate football. But I gave these young men a lot of credit online because it was a moment when we had no coach. We had no coach. And so it's a testament to both those young men and to the university. One, that the offers were still in place. The young men had an opportunity to go forward. Both sides seemed to be willing, even without, or what should I say, with a level of uncertainty that said, we don't know who the coach is going to be. We don't know what the schemes are going to be. We don't know who the position coaches are going to be. And yet we know we're going to do something good and you should still want to be here. And 7 young men stepped up to that. And I was impressed just for the purposes of running their names. And then I'd love to get your thoughts on that. There were a couple of quarterbacks, Joshua Hawley, Xavier Brookins, offensive lineman, Gavin Bennett, um, couple of D-backs, Bryson Connor, Antonio Turner, um, Amari Pryor, the running back from Bethel High School, who is they call him we call him Amari Ferrari, I think. Um, um, uh, Prier, I think that's the correct way to pronounce it. My bad. And then also Malik Porter, who uh, seems like an athlete, can potentially play on either side of the ball. I don't know that they know what they're going to do with him yet. So all young men, and I have mentioned this to you offline in the past. I thought some of this was also about maintaining great relationships with some of the local high schools where those kids were coming
Yeah.
from the Richmond area, from the Virginia Beach area, and of course from the immediate Hampton area. It is great to see us, like what it appears to be, intentionally building relationships or rebuilding relationships with schools and local coaches that we are committed to recruiting their kids.
Exactly. And one of the interesting things I'll be looking for as the staff continues to fill out off of what we think it'll look like, is is there a hire that has a direct tie to the local area, or
Mm,
is there a hire that has a direct tie to Richmond area? Um, I think getting the prior kid in is a good start for the school. Um, Being able to keep a local kid in right now, especially with where we've been and the direction we need to go, is one of the most important things, and it's got to be high on this new regime's task list is keeping some kids home, and it's going to be a challenge. If nothing else, the beholder's going to be on Good Morning America, national television, Fox Sports, you
right.
name it. So the presence locally is going to be a high-end task and a task that's going to need to be tackled expeditiously.
And I want to make a point that Hampton historically has done a really good job of finding the diamonds in the rough. You know, players that are overlooked, perhaps because of size, perhaps because of some type of injury they had in high school, where a school, larger school doesn't want to take a chance on them. Hampton has been really good historically about finding those types of young people with the chip on their shoulder, the ones who feel like they should have had another type of opportunity, but Hampton shows them some love and some appreciation, and that has many times paid off in spades for the university in a variety of ways. And there are lots of stories out there. I will say we have the running back that's coming is, relatively small in stature at 5'6", but I watched an interview with him and his coach where his high school coach admittedly said if he was 2 or 3 inches taller, he'd be playing at fill in the blank, right? I am so excited to see what happens when Coach Van Malone puts the ball in the young man's hands with a chip on his shoulder and see what happens with that. Now we have a crowded running back room, or at least we have had, but competition is healthy. I mean, I'm sure they'll find ways to get many of those playmakers in the mix. So I'm not
Yeah.
worried about that. That's what you're hired for. So, right, in the modern spaces. But I'm excited because I do believe that many of these young people are particularly excited about playing for Hampton. And that is exciting to me.
Well, I think that's one of the things that intrigues me about the hire. You can tell Coach Malone wants to be there, and on top of that, you can tell he wants to be in an HBCU.
Mm.
He's perfectly fine being at a HBCU. Resume aside, resume is powerful, high-end group of five. That man is happy to be at an HBCU. You could see that in the press conference. He called it some of the nerves coming out, but he was excited to be there.
Actually alluding to where we're going, which is the next step of this is before the big portal opens up January 2nd.
Mhm.
These kids these young men that are currently on the team need to be re-recruited, right? They need to
Yes.
be, and I imagine where Coach Malone and any other parties that are involved are spending their time trying to make sure that these young men know that they're wanted and that they are part of what's going to make this program successful going forward. We are not in the business of throwing the baby out with the proverbial bathwater, right? We are not, as I have jokingly said, these guys are not bringing their luggage and talking about Louis, right? These guys are saying we're going to improve what we have, and we can win with what we have and a few additions, of course, but the nucleus of what we have is enough, and that I think is motivating for these young men who want to win. They want to be on the team, and as I had said previously, I'm not sure any of them were in a great rush to leave especially some of the younger ones. Um, but uncertainty is a difficult thing, especially in the climate that we're living in, where everybody wants to test the markets and figure out what their value is.
And I never blame a kid for figuring out, okay, what am I worth?
Hmm.
These coaches have done it for years. You know, the staffs have done it for years. Hell, the administrators and the school on either side, whether it's the academic or the athletic side, have done it for years. So I don't begrudge a player or a student athlete at all for trying to get a grasp or get an understanding on what am I worth. And hey, if the grass ain't greener, or we more than happy to have you stay at Hampton. We would like you. It's certain folks, we would like you. We need you to stay at Hampton, if we're being very honest.
You're right. Look, as I said, I suspect they're very active right now trying to get as many young men to stick with this, and that's a good thing. Obviously, that won't be a 100% equation. That's just in the nature of the beast today. However, I do think that they're putting pieces in place to make it at least intriguing for a young player to stick around, right? You have
Hmm.
now uh, DJ Bolden as your OC. So if you're a receiver, right, or so forth, right, that might be interesting to take advantage of. If you are a D-back, we know that we had a lot of D-backs wondering whether they were going to stick around after the transition. We now have some serious coaching chops in the D-back space at the university coming in. Maybe that might put you in a position to be successful, and so you might want to stick around. So the, those are the kinds of things that I'm hoping for. And lastly, that turns us to the place where you talk about like the general portal, which opens up on January 2 and closes on January 16. So it's very tight portal window, and a lot of young people are going to jump in. I don't know how much Hampton's going to get a chance to take advantage of that, but we'll just have to wait and see. I don't know that the portal has ever been the biggest part of the plan. And just for the record, you know the D2 space, they've been able to be in the portal for a while. They don't have the same portal window
Hmm.
that that the rest that the FBS and FCS has. But the point of all of this is just we're very much in a wait and see mode. I do believe that the majority of the players that are going to be on the team are going to be those who are returning. Uh, we will not see a mass entry of 50% new guys coming from other places. In part because I don't think any of these coaches are coming from a place where they're going to be able to pull large portions of their existing roster over to us. This is not what we're going to see here.
Well, I think there's a lot in that. We open up our academic sessions pretty early. I think you hit it right, January the 8th. I will say this though, it's going to be interesting how they handle it. Do they go D2 and JUCO guy, coach him up? We'll see what we can pull from the high school ranks and call it a day. Or do they try and pull from the FBS level? I mean, your head coach in your DC coming from the FBS level. There's relationships there.
Mhm.
Your offensive coordinator is coming from the Black College National Champions. You would guess there's relationships there. So it's going to be interesting to see how that's navigated and what the outcomes are, because the institutional standards at Hampton aren't going to change.
Right.
We are
The
not going to
standard is the
downgrade them.
standard, right? Hmm.
Exactly. We're not going to downgrade them. So how they handle that, and how they maneuver, the academic side, the academic side, which I think is something Coach Malone's kind of embraced already. In that press conference, he was prepared and kind of understood the environment that he's going into. I do think they're going to get some guys from the portal, but it'll be interesting to see where the new guys that come into school from the portal come from, the level they come from, and the experience they have.
Yeah, I think this year is always a challenge. I think that first year is very, very difficult. And with the changing, the portal timing just makes it even more difficult. So here's what I think is happening. If I was to speculate, and I think ultimately you're going to see some very targeted D2 signings because they've been able to talk to D2 players since Van Malone got hired. I mean, day one. So I suspect that we will see a a influx this year of strategically selected D2 players because of the timing of the portal issue. Now, will we have any FBS, FCS players? I do believe that's true too. I don't think that's going to come about until the summer, right? And they won't show up on our roster until, June because of the timing. So right now, if I'm guessing, and again, I'm guessing, I'm not talked to anybody directly. Shout out to Coach Malone. I don't have a personal relationship at all. Don't have a relationship at all. My speculation is that because of the timing of things, they are targeting D2 players because they've been able to negotiate and work through that all month. And you cannot really deal with that with the FBS guys until January 2. So what does that mean? It means you gotta, as the old song goes, you gotta love the ones you're with. You gotta really work hard to take the guys who are currently on the team and raise their level.
Yeah, like I said earlier, the initial conversations with some guys who were on last year's roster and still have eligibility may be the most important thing that happens between now and January 8th.
Right.
I got a feeling we may pull off some FBS guys. They're gonna be guys. A whole lot of that is partly of what you said, guys that we may not see him we may not see him during the spring game, but we'll see him in summer.
I think that if we see any FBS guys in the in this, in the current window, the one that's coming, and again, speculation, it will be because those guys played for teams whose coaches were moving on. And then we knew that very early. And because of that, players had the right to jump into the portal or at least declare the portal earlier than waiting for the January 2. If you're on a team where you have no coaching change, you can't declare for the portal till January 2nd. But if there was a coaching change, you were eligible to make that to make that declaration early. So again, speculation. I suspect that we will see any FCS or FBS player coming over will be coming from a team where the coach moved on early, and therefore it was already known that they were going to be out there looking, right? So if a guy was already out there looking, we knew they were out there looking early. There's nothing wrong with talking to that guy early because he's already in the portal, right? Now, those guys are extremely hard to pull, but it's possible. It's definitely possible. So anyway, Adam, it's always fun. Good wrap up for December. Hopefully you and I will get a chance to talk when they announce in early February the signings. The smorgasbord of signings will come in early February, and that would definitely be cause for you and I to review again. Last words?
Last words, notes to the Pirate Nation. If you saw the State of the Department address from A.D. Henderson, he mentioned Hall of Fame nominations. Hall of Fame nominations can be put in January. They got a whole online website where you can nominate folks for the Hampton Hall of Fame. So if you feel like somebody's worthy, get their name in. Let's take care of our own.
Hey, yeah, it sounds like a plan to me. Nevertheless, hey, Adam, Happy New Year to you. I'm sure we'll be chatting. Hopefully folks who want more information in the interim can follow us on X and get all of our thoughts and updates. This has been your Pirate Players Then and Now podcast with your Hampton football enthusiast TJ Jones and our analyst and friend Adam Lee Spencer. Take care.